She has been grinding tirelessly, solidifying her reputation as a formidable force on the circuit, week in and week out. The fans show up in droves for her. We witnessed the chaos in Australia, overflowing crowds because the organizers shoved her onto a tiny backcourt. Gemini just detonated a truth bomb, so drop whatever you are holding immediately. Max out your volume, kill the notifications, empty the room, and focus laser sharp on what I am about to unveil. Forget the vanilla sports highlights or the sanitized narratives the mainstream media tries to spoon-feed you. We are looking at one of the most outrageous, blood-boiling systemic failures in modern professional athletics. A cultural tsunami is tearing through the sport right now, and the old guard is acting like the ground isn't shaking. This story involves Jessica Pegula, Novak Djokovic, the WTA, and the unstoppable global phenomenon known as Eala. You could try to play devil's advocate, say it was just a scheduling mishap, or that they underestimated the crowd size. Sure, she is young, she is fresh on the scene. That is the standard excuse. But let's be real, the chatter around Alex is undeniable, and for good reason. She represents an entire nation. The Philippines is stepping onto the world stage, and it is a massive deal. She is the greatest tennis talent that country has ever produced, representing millions of hungry, passionate fans. Imagine the scene. It is 2026, amidst the glitz of the United Arab Emirates at the Dubai Duty-Free Championships. Jessica Pegula, a true titan of the game, has just battled through a gauntlet to snatch the Dubai Open trophy. It stands as a defining victory in an already legendary career. This is her time, her spotlight, her glory. Confetti is raining down, microphones are shoved in her face, and the world is waiting for her victory speech. Usually, athletes use this platform to wax poetic about their personal struggles. They thank their trainers, break down their backhand, and talk about the long road to the top. But Pegula? She flipped the script entirely. In the heat of her triumph, she displayed the kind of raw integrity and leadership that separates champions from legends. She took that massive global spotlight and turned it away from herself. She pointed it directly at someone else, someone she believes is being criminally undervalued by the powers that be. She went all in on Eala, and she did not mince words. Pegula put every executive and reporter on notice. Eala is not just some up-and-comer anymore. That old story? Dead and buried. She is a bona fide superstar, plain and simple. A warrior who has shown time and again that she can hang with the deadliest players on the planet. She has the strokes, the iron will, and that X factor you just cannot teach. But here is the ugly truth Pegula exposed. The WTA is refusing to see it. And as a veteran voice in the locker room, Pegula is done biting her tongue. Her presser peeled back the curtain on a reality that has been bothering the real fans for ages. She dragged the media back to the 2025 Miami Open, recalling a 3-set war with Eala. She described walking out of the tunnel and getting hit with a reality check that nearly knocked her over. Keep in mind, Pegula is American. This was Florida. It should have been home turf, but it felt like enemy lines. She was completely blindsided by the wall of sound that hit her. The vibe in Miami was not just loud, it was nuclear. Packed rafters, deafening noise, absolute hysteria over every single point. Pegula called it straight-up insanity, and she did not mean that as an insult. She was not complaining about the hostility. She was standing there in pure awe. She was watching a Filipino teenager command a legion of fans that veterans dream of having after a decade on tour. Pegula told the press point blank, "I am the local here, yet the entire stadium was rooting against me. I am thinking, what is going on? Where did this army come from?" But here's the kicker. This was not a one-time thing in Miami. Pegula made sure everyone understood that. She brought the receipts, pointing out that it does not matter if we are talking about the humidity of Miami, the baking ovens of the Australian Open in Melbourne, or the spotless grounds of Dubai. Eala consistently pulls the biggest, loudest, most die-hard crowds in the entire WTA. People do not just buy tickets to see Eala play. They embark on a sacred journey. They build entire movements around her. They drop small fortunes on international flights, lock in hotels seasons in advance, and brave punishing lines for hours just for a shot at seeing her in the flesh. You almost never see that kind of raw magnetic pull in modern sports anymore. That deep, visceral connection between a young prodigy and her global army is exactly the holy grail that corporate suits have been trying to manufacture in boardrooms for decades. The WTA pours millions into slick marketing schemes hoping to crack the code of the Asian market. And yet, standing right there is a young Filipino powerhouse who has already kicked that door down naturally, armed with nothing but generational skill, electric charisma, and an underdog story that makes you want to stand up and cheer. But despite this mountain of proof, despite the Ticket revenue, the merch flying off shelves, the viral explosions, and everything Alex Iola pumps into the ecosystem, the WTA keeps inexplicably tossing her onto the back courts. Jessica. Pegula does not just find this weird. She takes it as a personal and professional slap in the face. She broke down the total operational train wreck at the 2026 Australian Open, and her story is hard to swallow if you know anything about business. Just let the pure insanity of this sink in for a second. You have Alex Iola, who according to every report and head count, was drawing some of the biggest numbers Melbourne Park has seen in modern history. Die-hard loyalists were literally flying in from every corner of Asia, from Manila to Tokyo to Singapore, burning savings and crossing oceans just because Alex Iola's name was on the bracket. For these supporters, this was a cultural pilgrimage. When those thousands of fans finally arrived at the gates, ready to witness history, waving Philippine flags and ready to scream their hearts out, what was the tournament's brilliant move? They dumped Alex Iola on a cramped side court that physically could not hold even a fraction of the mob that came to see her. It was a logistical nightmare. Fans were left stranded in the ruthless, unforgiving Australian heat. They were trapped in lines, snaking around the stadium, roasting in the sun, praying to squeeze through a bottleneck just to catch a second of the action. The gut-wrenching reality is that most never made it inside. They traveled all that distance, spent their savings, and used their vacation time for nothing. Instead, they hit a concrete wall, listening to the distant roar of a party they were not invited to, frantically checking scores on their phones while the match happened 10 feet away, totally invisible. Then, the tragic kicker, Eala got knocked out. Those loyal souls who sacrificed everything to be there walked away with nothing but the bitter, exhausted memory of a line that never moved. Jessica Pegula did not mince words when she talked about this disaster. She threw diplomacy out the window. She called it pure disrespect to Alex Iola, to the thousands of paying fans who are the lifeblood of the sport, and to the game-changing energy Iola is bringing to women's tennis across Southeast Asia. The reason Pegula's words are hitting like a sledgehammer, why they are shaking the entire tennis world, is because she is not some pundit chirping from a cozy studio. She is a veteran who has fought in those trenches, walked on those same courts, felt that heat, and stood across the net from Iola, feeling that terrifying, electric wave of the crowd crashing down on her. When Jessica Pegula looks the establishment in the eye and calls the system broken, she is speaking from cold, hard experience. But Pegula went even further, ripping back the curtain to expose a secret that should have been the headline on every sports page. She revealed that insiders explicitly told her that the Australian Open had seen its absolute peak, its most electric atmosphere ever, and that the history books will show shattering records for ticket sales and bodies in seats. But let's be real. That electricity came from one source, Alex Iola. Sit with that truth for a second. We are talking about the loudest, most lucrative, most electric mob ever seen at a Grand Slam. Yet, the very architect of that adrenaline rush was shoved aside, treated like an afterthought, and buried on a backlot court fit for a practice session. Do not call this a scheduling glitch. This was not some intern fumbling a spreadsheet or an honest clerical mix-up. It was a cold, calculated signal sent straight from the top brass. A slap in the face. The tennis aristocracy looked the next generation in the eye and said, "Your cash flow means nothing to us. Your screaming fans? Irrelevant. You are not welcome at the grown-ups table yet." But Jessica Pegula is not the only one swinging a sledgehammer at that gatekeeping mindset. The army of heavy hitters backing Alex Iola is getting louder and bolder by the day. And now, enter the wolf, Novak Djokovic. We are talking about a titan holding 24 Grand Slam titles, the undisputed king of the men's game. A man who has lived through every dirty trick, every political maneuver, and every shadow game the tour can play. He spent his life at war with the suits, fighting tooth and nail just to exist. He had to claw for every ounce of respect, while the establishment rolled out the red carpet for their golden boys, Federer and Nadal. So, when Djokovic grabs the mic, the whole sporting world goes quiet and leans in. He did not wait to be asked. He stepped up and pointed straight at the Filipino phenom, branding Alex Iola as the finest talent her nation has ever produced. He demanded she get her due, not just from the press or the stands, but from the people blowing the whistles and making the rules. Crucially, he called out the absolute mess the WTA and organizers made with her court assignments. He confirmed that burying her in the schedule was not just annoying, it was a massive, manufactured hurdle thrown in her path during the biggest weeks of her life. Djokovic put it simply, "Sure, having too many fans is a good problem, but putting her on a tiny court? That is just bad management. When a living legend with that kind of weight on his shoulders backs you up, the whole conversation flips upside down. Suddenly, it is not just a bunch of angry keyboard warriors venting on Twitter. It is the gods of the arena calling out a system of disrespect that they refuse to stomach any longer. Now, if you think bad time slots and small bleachers are the only weapons they are using to slow Alex Eala down, think again. The rabbit hole goes way deeper, and honestly, it gets a lot uglier than just crowd control. Let me take you back to a moment that pulled the curtain back on the bizarre, double-standard treatment she deals with. It was an incident that screamed discrimination. We are looking at her showdown with Iga Świątek. For context, Świątek is the world #1, a Grand Slam hoarder, and arguably the most terrifying, robotic winning machine the women's game has seen in ages. Just standing across the net from her makes most players crumble, but Eala? She didn't blink. She was right there, deep in the trenches of a high-stakes war. Just as Eala was finding her groove, digging her heels in, and actually looking like a legitimate threat to the queen of the court, the impossible happened. An official decided that specific, razor-thin moment was the perfect time to kill the vibe. They walked right onto the court, marched up to Eala, and started digging through her gym bag. Think about the absolute lunacy of that. You are in a baseline brawl with the best player on earth. The timing was suspicious, the distraction was massive, and it totally shattered her focus, freezing her out when she needed fire the most. You do not see umpires stopping a center court thriller to rifle through a Western superstar's belongings when they are on a roll. It just doesn't happen to the chosen ones. It is unheard of, and it spits on every unwritten code of sportsmanship and flow. None of it adds up, unless you are willing to look at the ugly truth. Maybe it wasn't an accident. Maybe it was a tactical strike from the administration to freeze out the underdog before she could embarrass their favorite champion. But if the WTA bigwigs think these cheap tricks work, if they think squeezing her onto side courts, locking out her fans, and pausing matches will break her spirit, then they have no idea what kind of warrior they are actually fighting. If this resistance proves anything, it is that Alex Eala is absolutely not going anywhere. She is not about to fade into the background without a fight. Neither the pressure nor the dirty politics will break her. Every wall they build just forges a sharper, deadlier weapon. Take every bad officiating call and every tiny side court used to shut out her crowd. Every shady schedule change designed to kill her rhythm has blown up in their faces. Instead of silencing her, they have simply handed her a megaphone. They have awakened a sleeping giant of a fan base, turning a talented athlete into a global icon. She is fast outgrowing the petty games played behind closed doors. She is eclipsing a tour that stubbornly refuses to give her the center stage she has earned with blood and sweat. The legends of the game see the truth. Jessica Pegula recognizes a superstar in the making. Novak Djokovic sees a Hall of Famer, and Coco Gauff respects that fierce determination. And millions of loud, proud fans across the globe feel it every single time she laces up her sneakers. The association can keep playing their little bureaucratic tricks. They can shove her onto Court 6, Court 12, or whatever remote patch of concrete they try to hide her on. They can pretend they are deaf to the Filipino roar, shaking the stadium foundations. But make no mistake, there is nothing minor league about Alex Eala anymore. Not her explosive baseline power, not her warrior spirit, and certainly not her future. The establishment better build a bigger arena or get crushed by the wave, because she is on the hunt. She is coming for that trophy, and she is bringing an entire nation along for the ride.